we've got a Porsche legend on the show, someone who
Porsche.
many people may not connect with racing, I guess, even though I think automotive is just as important. But Magnus Walker joins us. He is quite has quite an interesting story. He is known as the Porsche man, or as a Porsche man. Was recently in the news because he sold off a lot of his collection, and we want to talk to him about it. So
Yep.
we got him on the show to talk. And
The Urban Outlaw.
here's the thing with folks like Magnus and what they do, very much artist, the mentality, the thinking, and driving a race car, owning a business. I mean, all of that has a level of artistry to it. But Magnus takes it to a whole nother level, and he allows the passion to drive him, which creates for a very interesting conversation, a great conversation, a lot of wisdom, a lot of lessons that can be taken, whether you are running a business, whether you're racing, whether you are trying to collect things, whatever it may be. I think a lot of what he says translates across the board. And it was a fun conversation. He started off, he had me call him because he's like, I don't want to download the link because I'm in a digital detox. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be a cool conversation.
It was amazing. I was in a panic first.
The thought process, right? He could have easily just been like, I'm going to download it because I'm like, no, he's sticking to it. I'm in a digital detox.
No.
This is what I'm doing for my sanity, mental health, whatever he's doing it for, right? For his creative reset. And he truly is what he puts out there, which that's all you can ask for.
He is an absolute creative genius, and he's so authentic. I think that's a word that I can use to describe him. He's authentic. He is who he is, and he lives a life that maybe a lot of us, or he makes a lot of decisions in how he operates his life that maybe a lot of us are envious about in the good way. And like, man, I wish I could be that bold, that sincere, and live with such sort of gusto.
Enjoy.
Crazy morning, but good.
Probably had a very busy last week or so. How long has it been since the auction started?
The auction ended March 25th on a Wednesday, so 9 days ago. Yeah, it's been busy.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I'm finally rearranging my warehouse space, both physically and mentally. It's a reset, a refresh. I'm feeling uncluttered, motivated, inspired, new beginning, new chapter. I'm seeing my space for the first time in 26 years without cars in part of it. I mean, to clarify, I didn't sell everything. I sold 18 cars. I kept 15, and I actually just bought a car yesterday. So it's a little bit like, when you want to spring clean your garage or your closet, and you might have been putting this off for a long time if it's your closet with clothes or your garage with whatever junk's in there. And then one day you go in and you just start throwing stuff behind you, and you end up with a big pile on the floor. And if it's clothing, maybe you sort of second guess throwing stuff away. But then the smart part of your brain goes, just throw it in a black plastic trash bag and go take it to the Goodwill. That is right where I'm at right now.
Cool. You've said things like the collection was part of shedding your skin, and you just mentioned it's a rebirth. I guess my curiosity was, it's a rebirth for you. Do you see this as something where it no longer is defining you as much, or do you want to just change how you're defined?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, I've worn a lot of hats in my life. This is kind of a milestone era for me on lots of levels. This year is my 5th year in LA. I literally arrived 40 years ago in 1986 when I was 19 years old, less than a mile from where I'm sat on a Trailways bus at Union Station. So that's a very pivotal part of my story. Next year, I turn 60. So that's another milestone. And over the past 40 years of being in LA, I've done 3 things with no education in. To back up, I left school when I was 15 years old with 2 O levels, which is really not much education. But I often say you're one of 2 things. You're either book smart or you're street smart. My sister went to university and got all the O levels and degrees and whatever else, and I didn't get any of that. And a lot of the people that I've met that are more entrepreneurial are the same way. They didn't have an educational background in the sense of, doing a lot of schoolwork, and I was a bit of a rebel in school. And I think looking back, because I'm looking back over my past 40 years of life, because it went like that. And I'm looking forward to the next, I've probably got 20, 25 years active, and go, wow, maybe for once in my life, I should think ahead, because I never did. I'm sort of like the opposite of, people like to map out things of where they're going. And, I always say a spreadsheet can only get you so far. And, there's that saying, you can't put a saddle on a Mustang. So I had no sort of preconceived vision of where I would be. And this is a very long, rambling answer to your
I love it.
question.
No, it's
But
beautiful.
I
I've,
love it.
wo- I've worn a lot of hats in my time. There was a time when I was selling secondhand clothing on the boardwalk in Venice, which was how I got started in my entrepreneurial sort of business sense. And ultimately, it's just I like doing cool things with cool people, and I like doing things that are creative and inspiring and inspire me and motivate me. So one time I was, hey, you're the crazy hat guy in Venice, aren't you? Because I made these big, whimsical, crazy sort of Lewis Carroll Cat in the Hat, Mad Hatter rave type things. So that was me in the late 80s, all the way up through these and into early 2000s. Early 2000s, when I grew the beard, I got the, hey, aren't you Rob Zombie? So I used to get that all the time. And then over the past 15 years, I've got, hey, aren't you that Porsche guy? Now, I've been all of those things for the past 59 years. I'm still the crazy hat guy. I still joke about Rob Zombie. I know Rob Zombie. And I've been a Porsche guy since I was 10 years old. So that love affair started in 1977. The 10-year-old me, I've told that story many, many times. But essentially, I went to the London Court Motor Show, fell in love with Porsche, saw the white Martini Turbo on the stand, and that started the love affair with Porsche. So I've been into Porsche for almost 50 years. I bought my first Porsche in 1992. That was 34 years ago. So I've always been a Porsche guy. What sort of defined me as the, hey, aren't you that Porsche guy, I suppose, was the Urban Outlaw film, Timmy Moscovici's film that came out in 2012.
Mm.
It sort of put me on a bigger scale on the automotive map. And as you probably know, 14 years ago, the automotive content scene wasn't as crazy as it is
I don't know.
today. And that film was sort of relevant then and it's relevant today. Part of this letting things go, I joke about spring cleaning, is I'm not redefining who I am. It's other people's perception of who I am.
Sure.
I'm the same guy. The cars that I let go last week at RM Sotheby's, a lot of those cars I'd bought almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
I haven't bought an air-cooled 911 since 2013, 2014. I bought other Porsches, water-cooled things, because I'm a goal-oriented collector. So those cars represented achieving a goal
Yeah.
of, at the time, one of everything Porsche had made in a sports car, which was front engine, mid-engine, rear engine, both air and water-cooled. So it sort of ticked that box. And then, I travel a lot. And over the years, when I'm traveling, I'm not necessarily missing some of these cars. Therefore, these cars weren't getting driven. And then you get to a point of, why do I own this stuff if I'm not actually using this?
Yeah.
So
So that's kind of where I'm at.
I have a question for you. If we could map out all your cars chronologically, is this like Picasso? Do you have your blue era, your rose era, your cute? Will it tell the story of you? Oh, in this era, he maybe was sad, he was happy, he was upset.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the cars that I kept, and, I just bought one. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but it's the
Ah.
first Porsche I've never owned. So you can probably connect the dots about
Okay.
the time we purchased one. I'm going to get it next week. But the cars that I kept are the real defining ones that I built. The cars that I let go, some of them I had really no connection to. A lot of the transaxle water cooled cars, I just wanted to experience diversity of 924, 928, 944, 968.
Yeah.
And then I kept certain ones that were either special, significant, or I'd really sort of developed over time as full builds, like the 964 and
Mhm.
obviously 277, and then the art cars that I've sort of been doing over the past, I guess, 8 years. For me, this is not a business. It's been a hobby up to this point where I just build what I personally want to experience. That's sort of what separates me from a lot of the other great builders where they're building cars for a business. I just happen to have sold cars I figured was time to let go. But everything that I built was something that I wanted to experience from an aesthetic point of view or a driving point of view. And there's an art to collecting. Humans like to collect, whether it's cars, guitars, watches, sneakers, jewelry, whatever it may be, right? And often the thrill is like the chase to begin with, chasing something down, and then the art of the deal, right? No matter what price someone's asking on anything, whether it's a watch or a guitar.
Mm.
First of all, I'm that guy. I like going to flea markets and rose bowls and stuff like that. I like old things. I don't like new things. I've never owned a new car. So if I'm at the Rose Bowl flea market and there's a guy with a table of vintage watches, I have to go look at them, even though I don't need them. I'm the type of
Yeah.
collector, whether it's cars, guitars, or watches, I don't just have one. I'll have two, three, five of pretty much the same thing. At one point, I had 7 of the same 3-liter turbo. It's 567S's. So with watches, it's the same thing. I collected Omega, Hoya, and Porsche design. So I started with one. But then, 10 years later, I've got 5 Speedmasters. And of course, you can't wear them. So it's
I mean,
the
you
art of
could.
collecting is sometimes it's like you just got to go look. Then you got to negotiate the deal, right? If he's asking $1,000, I'm not paying $1,000. I'm going to work him down. Start at 5 and somewhere in the middle we meet, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of the thrill of the art of the deal. The novelty of, oh, I've got something new, even though it's slightly different. No two things are ever the same. So it's the same but different. And then over time with watches, and same with guitars, they just watches end up in the bottom of a drawer not being worn, and guitars end up gathering dust until I accidentally knock them over and break the neck of them. And letting things go takes time.
Mm.
People, everyone's got an opinion about why I'm selling things, right? And I just let them go because I didn't need them anymore. But it took me a long time to get to that point. I'd been letting a couple of cars go, one here, one there, over the past 5 years that sort of no one knew about. But it was a big band-aid to pull off and go, okay, I'm going to sell 18 through RM Sotheby's and thousands of parts through hundreds of lots. And it took me quite a few years to get to that point. And the pivotal part to this story is I almost did this a year ago, but I wasn't ready. And I thought, let me see if I drive these cars anymore. And I didn't. And that was when I knew I was ready. And the fact that everything was no reserve really told you these are selling. When
Yeah.
people put a reserve price on it, it means I'm only going to sell this if it gets to the price I want to get for it.
Right.
So they're ready at a price. For me, it didn't matter because I'd bought into them so long ago that they'd already doubled and tripled and doubled again. So the no reserve element, people thought, wow, you're nuts. What if it sells low? I go, well, if it sells low, it sells low, but I don't think they're going to. I had a gut instinct that this is the time for me emotionally to let them go, physically let them go. But I did a little test about a year ago with my watches. I pulled out a dozen of these Omega Speedmaster Hoyas and Porsche design. And I had my buddy who runs a pretty nice boutique watch business, put them up for sale, and they all sold in one day at market. And right there and then I realized I didn't even think about those watches. So the watches was like a baby step into the cars. The cars are obviously more significant, they're more visual, they take more space, they're more expensive, there's more of a connection. But it was just the time was ready for me to let them go on auction. The cars all sold a week ago and everything left 2 days ago. Now it's sort of like, wow, I feel light, I feel energized, I feel inspired. I'm in this new environment where I'm looking at this building that I've owned for 26 years with new eyes.
Of
Same
course.
eyes, but I'm looking at it in a different light of, wow, there's a lot of possibility here. It's like a new blank canvas. And I don't exactly know what I'm doing next, but I'm telling you, I'm pretty excited that I just know that something good is going to happen. And I've
So,
always sort of had that feeling.
yeah.
I closed my clothing company down, Serious Clothing, 15 years ago in 2011. I'd done it for 25 years, was no longer motivated, I'd lost creativity, sales had gone down. And at the time, we were like, success should be the ability to do whatever you want to do when you want to do it. So why am I a hamster on a treadmill going through the motions? Because that's all I know that I've done. And so now it's kind of the same thing with the cars. And I closed Serious Clothing down. That was a clothing brand that I'd started on the boardwalk in Venice in the late 80s. I'd ran it for over 20 years. And I didn't know what was coming next, but I knew I had a cushion of financial stability. But what came next was the Urban Outlaw film, which opened the door to the TED Talk and the book and me traveling around the world. Now, if I still had my full-time job running a clothing company with a dozen employees, I would not have had the freedom of
Right.
time to just say, okay, next week, I'm going to go here, there, and everywhere, and I'm able to do it. So I'm not tied down to something that's anchoring me that I no longer even enjoy. So it's like shedding the skin, right? Last year was the year
Right.
of the snake. this year's the year of the horse, and I'm ready to gallop and giddy up. So there's the long
Whoa.
answer to the question.
So, okay, here's a question, or maybe it's not a question. You don't have to answer it because I know you're not going to say it. Do you see this photo right here? Do you know this photo?
I don't see it. I'm at that age where I got to put my glasses on. And I'm on a phone, and
I think you'll know who it is when you see it and what car he was driving.
I can't even see it.
All right, so it's James Dean driving his 550 down Sunset.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So my guess for you is either it's a 550, which it probably is not a 550, or a 356. I don't think you've owned the 356.
Well, one out of two ain't bad, and I don't like convertibles. So
There it is.
breaking news.
You said that ideas are not necessarily or cannot be taught, right? It comes from walking, observing, and bouncing things off of people. If we put that into context of running a business that's tied to your personal vision or your passion, how do you decide which ones of those you want to make money off of? Because, and let me just say one more thing before I finish that. Oftentimes, we love things and we love to do them. Photography, so any type of creativity, artistry, collecting. But then we think, let's turn it into a money making opportunity, and then we hate it. That's why I'm asking the question. Is there anything that you look at, or how do you make that decision?
Great question. So in 2009, 10, I had this thread going online on Pelican Parts, early S registry, like a blog, and it was literally Porsche collection, out of control hobby. And hobby is the important part here. My day job was the clothing company, and that enabled me to get into real estate. I like old things, old cars, old clothing, old jewelry, rehabbing things. The building that I'm sat in is 125 years old.
Yeah.
So I like old things, and old things have made me money. But when it came to cars, sure, occasionally I would sell them, but it was never a business. I never wanted to make my hobby a business. And that was what separates me from the likes of the Singers and the Gunther Works and Tuttles and RWBs and whoever else you want to throw in. They're all making great cars, but it's a business.
Right.
And I've been around modifying cars for over 20, 25 years. And I've obviously seen a lot of people come and go, and a lot of shops that, they start a project and then a year later it's not finished because the customer ran out of money or changed his mind or, changed the color. And I don't like dealing with deadlines and customer expectations. Sure, I've sold cars, but I've sold them when I built them, and here it is, you either like it or you don't. I always said up to this point that I don't want you to say, hey, I really love that car. Can you build it for me? But I want it this way. Then all of a sudden I'm catering to your personal taste on your sort of variety of what it is that I want. I probably left a lot of money on the table when it comes to things like merch. I'm the guy that is always giving shit away, free Hot Wheels, free stickers, free. But ironically, there was a guy that bought something at auction recently, and he came in and he said, hey, I've got a sticker. Can you put it on my car? And it was a bootleg sticker that this guy bought from someone on eBay for $10. And I go, well, I won't put the bootleg sticker on because it's not quite right. It's wrong size, wrong color. But obviously I'll put my sticker on. I'll give you my sticker. And, I realized that I could have been selling a ton of merch. Occasionally I sell some, but then I'm really in this letting things go phase up to now where I'd scaled back to where I'm sort of a one-man army lone wolf type of operation where I don't have a manager, an agent. Obviously, you can get that from this podcast that I'd forgotten about and didn't follow up on and blah, blah, blah. So I'm an in-the-moment guy.
Yeah.
So obviously, I've made money selling things, usually a lot of money selling property. Clothing was before that. The recent sale at RM Sotheby's was good, but I could have been selling a lot of merch and a lot of other things. It just didn't feel right to me. Like a lot of people approach me to do collabs with things that I'm not interested in. Jewelry, I don't wear it. People always like, let's do an outlaw whiskey. I go, sounds great, but I don't drink whiskey, right? So, I just like doing cool shit with cool people. And some of those opportunities, maybe, you make money on, some you don't. It's like, my Nike shoe collab, for example. Right, perhaps the best one, but there was no money in it. Same with Hot Wheels. I've probably done over 30 Hot Wheels where I've designed them. And there's probably over 20 million Hot Wheels out there with my name and brand on it. but I've spent more on coffee than Hot Wheels paid me for a license.
Oh my
And
gosh.
people go, wow, you're crazy. Why are you not licensing all this stuff? It just wasn't a priority for me. So the long answer to your question is, if it feels right in the gut at
Mm.
that time, I'm all in it. I'm not anti making money. It just has to feel right at the time. Like
So
the Nike deal, there was no money in it, but from a branding point of view, it was the coolest thing I ever did. So
yeah.
for me, it's not always about money. Sure, I got to pay some bills and responsibilities,
Yeah.
but I've never come into something from making money. Like
Just
when
do cool
people
shit.
come up to me and they ask me my pet peeve question of usually first time Porsche owner, what car is going to be a good investment? And I've got the canned response. Unless you're investing in smiles per mile and memorable moments, I can't answer that question for you.
Yeah.
And they go, yeah, but you bought cars that are worth a lot of money. I go, yeah, because I bought what I personally liked at that time, which was
Mhm.
before they became cool. Ironically, a certain time ago, short wheelbase cars, no one was into it.
Yeah.
3-liter turbos, nobody cared about them.
Yeah.
So you could pick them up really inexpensive. So I'm not chasing. It sort of goes back to my clothing days where we were more of a trendsetter, and it comes back to the idea can't be taught. Inspiration's all around, and you're either inspired by something you see, hear, feel, taste, smell, right? All the
Mm.
senses are engaged. And that sparks something, whether it's making coffee, brewing candles, skateboards, whatever it is that floats your boat. That's the creative type on the idea that can't be taught. Obviously, people can see a trend and go, air cooled 911s are trendy, right? Let's get into it. We drink that Kool Aid. Well,
Right.
I've been into air cooled 911s since 1977, and I bought my first one in 1992. So this is not a fashion statement or fashion trend that I jumped on the bandwagon. I was into this stuff really sort of in my own time frame, let's put it that way. And time's everything. You know, when I was buying clothing on the boardwalk and going to thrift stores and buying Levi's for 50 cents and selling them for $5, $10, I was ahead of that trend. When I got into real estate in the arts district in downtown LA 25, 30 years ago, I was ahead of the trend that came next. And the same with the Porsches that I got into. So the answer to that is I just do things that I personally feel that I'm into visually, and all of the other stuff I mentioned has to be something I'm interested in. Like, you know, I've never owned convertibles. I've never owned a Targa. You know, it's too much of the wind in the hair, beard in the eye type of thing. So I'm not interested in it. Doesn't matter whether I could have bought a, you know, a 67S soft window Targa was the first year of the soft window Targa.
Mm.
I couldn't have cared less about them when they were 5 grand or 10 grand. And it didn't bother me when they were worth 200 because I just wasn't into them.
Yeah.
So I don't come at things from, oh, I should have bought more of those because I bought other stuff in that same sort of price bracket that did what I just described that I actually liked. So
So
I have to like what I'm involved in. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm not committed
Absolutely.
to it 100%. Then you just half-ass and shit.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit because every creative has a process. And you have mentioned a few times here, you're in the moment kind of guy. You do everything, you're sort of a one-man show. But there has to be at some point some sort of storyboard when you're dreaming up a car. Do you already know what it's going to look like in the end? Because you have to order parts, you have to get the
Yeah.
right thing.
Can't start downloading an app to get on a podcast. You know, I'm in a digital detox. I'm trying to get less stuff off this phone, but this comes back to this idea of the idea is the most important thing and can't be taught. You can go to school and learn how to do graphic, I guess, illustration and design and output stuff. And now with AI, it can be done like that.
Mm.
But usually I don't even draw stuff. Occasionally I do. Recently I got on this whole tape sort of journey of it started with blue painter's tape, then it went to vinyl tape and multicolored tape, and that was how I did my art cards, like the 914, got a checkerboard roof. Those were visually post-its, like a 2.5 inch square yellow post-it that I just put on the roof and went, wow, that looks cool. So for me, I'm more of a hands-on. Like some people design digitally and with AI, it's like I'm not even interested in that. I'm not against it, but it's not how I create. I like to create in full scale. I was doing this project with Pininfarina, for example, where
Yeah.
I was just putting tape on that Batista. And it was like, wow, that opportunity came. Or, you know, I've been a design consultant with TWR on the old supercharged Supercat, the XJS. I've been on that project for 3.5 years. And so these are things that I'm already doing outside of the Porsche world, but they're all sort of design driven. You know, for me, really, It's an aesthetic thing. You know, good design never goes out of style. Let's put it that way. Things come and go in cycles, right? But, you know, it's a classic case of money doesn't necessarily buy you taste. And
Yep.
taste is something that you can acquire it and you can sort of be around it and you can learn it, or you can just naturally sort of have it, whether it's good taste or bad taste, right? We all have it. Some
Sure.
things just sort of work better than others. Some people are really put together and other people have got all the money in the world and they've got no taste. And you go, how does that work, right? But that's just how it is. I don't know if that helps you, but
Oh, for
I'm
sure.
analog. I'm analog most of the way. And this car that I'm getting next week, in my mind, I can't. First of all, I can't wait to get it because it's something new
Yeah.
and it's a new experience. But I've already visually, I already know how it's going to look. It
I
may change slightly because things do evolve, but I've got a baseline that I'm just going to start throwing tape on it straight away.
How long will that take you, do you think, to get to the completion of the vision?
I don't think long. Like the 924 Carrera GT started out with 4 pieces of tape one day, and you know it was spanned out over several days. But I don't think I spent more than 10 hours on it,
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
and I never actually took tape off it. I just kept adding more tape. But I'd be surprised if I put 10 hours into it.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, it's not painted yet, but visually that thing's done. At the end of the day, not pleasing anyone else. I'm a big believer in nothing needs to be perfect. Nothing ever is perfect, right?
Right.
I'm comfortable in that imperfection.
How much, I don't even know why I'm thinking of this right now, but how much responsibility, and I use that loosely, but how much responsibility do you take for the 911 market kind of blowing up?
I don't take any. That's other people's things, you know.
Mm.
Do you think people look at you and your passion, and obviously the market just exploded, right? You can't even touch. I love the 930 turbo. That's always been my favorite, but I don't have one, and they became untouchable. I don't want to say untouchable. That's such a weird word, but they're difficult to come across for some of us. Do you like? What do you think really led to that then?
I think everything's timing, you know. It was 7,500 bucks. I bought a lot of 911s that were under 10 grand, 4,500 bucks, five
Yeah,
grand. Like the car you're describing used to be a 20 grand car.
yeah,
And I bought them when they were 20 grand cars.
yeah,
So it's a timing thing. I mean, for me, there is a definition of time stamp with Urban Outlaw. Tamir Moscovici's award-winning short documentary, 32-minute film that came out October 15th, 2012. That is timestamp. So you can go, okay, what was the Porsche scene like before that?
mm,
It was a little bit of this generic, I'm talking in broad generic strokes here, but most Porsche owners might be considered douchebaggy, doctor, lawyer, dentist, older, wealthier type of guy,
yeah,
usually, right? Or they were a PCA club member. Now, I'm not putting them down. I'm just saying what it was. You know,
Just fact.
yeah,
PCA club member with his shorts and his polo shirt, and he's got his little name tag on it, zone region PCA member.
yeah.
I've never been a member of any club, but I've owned Porsches now.
You're kidding.
Yeah, exactly. So
Breaking news.
to me, it was great because I've been around filming. You know, my day job, separate of the clothing, is film location business. I own
Hmm.
property that I rent out to production studios for commercial filming, TV show, music video, reality show. I've been approached by people to make car-related films, but just never clicked with them. Tamir Moscovici sent me an email in 2011, said, "Hey, I've been following your thread, your out of control hobby thread on the blogs, and I think there's more to your story than meets the eye." You know, so he took a leap of faith, flew down from Toronto, and we filmed what became Urban Outlaw in February of 2012 over 4 days with a ramshackle crew of people, like 4 or 5 people, and 2 Canon 5Ds. And we didn't know what was going to happen with that film. We released a little trailer in June of 2012, and within a few days, I got a contact. Someone reached out from Nike, Sandy Bodecker, who was in charge of Nike Action Sports, and said he loved the film. He was a Porsche owner, loved the trailer, and was there any way he could see the film? I go, well, it's not finished yet, but let me see what I can do. Why? And he said, well, Nike hosts a 2-day design summit conference for all of their Nike think tank designers and marketing people. And long story short, Nike ended up renting my building in downtown LA. We ended up screening an uncut version of Urban Outlaw at the Soho House. And we hosted 30 of their designers and marketing people. And I even did a sort of what would become a version of my TED Talk, which happened later. And that was in 2012, and the film hadn't even come out. And I just got onto Facebook at the time, I guess, and I don't know, maybe I had a couple of hundred followers. And then overnight, this trailer got picked up by Top Gear. And it sort of went viral and went like this. And we didn't know if 500 people were going to see that trailer, 5,000, 50,000, or millions, right? So when the film got accepted into the London Raindance Film Festival, which is a rainy version of Sundance, we all got on a plane and went to London because, hey, our film's premiering at a film festival in London to a sold-out crowd on a Saturday night in Piccadilly Circus. So we knew we were onto something. And then when the film came out in 2012, October 15th, that was like the floodgates to Porsche contacted me, and things just started happening pretty quick. So the pivotal point was 2012, the film, 2014, the TED Talk, 2017, I had a book come out, which is now in 3 different languages, English, German, Japanese, 3 different editions. And then in between, all of these things started happening, collaborating with Hot Wheels, Mobile One, Momo steering wheel, and ultimately leading up to Nike and lots of other things in between. So that pivotal moment started in 2012. And if you backtrack to 2012, a lot of automotive things where it was just a different environment, different platform. Social media hadn't exploded yet. Influencers weren't quite where they were today. So the long answer to this question is I wouldn't personally say it defined the moment, but other people tell me it did all the time. The amount of people that came up to me that told me, just like the guy with the bootleg sticker, he bought his first Porsche because of me. And I hear that all the time. If it wasn't for you, I would not have owned a Porsche, because at the time I thought Porsche owners were blah, blah, blah. So a lot of people related to my story because Urban Outlaw is not really, it's a Porsche story, but it's my story of my life, and the Porsche is the car that takes you on the journey of my life. So the relatability, and then from that getting into games like Need for Speed, the video game, CSR racing, it went beyond the Porsche world and just reached the automotive car culture world. Whether you're a Ken Block fan, a Need for Speed fan, a Formula Drift fan, a Formula One fan, an off-road fan, I think people connected to my story. First of all, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not here with a kind of soft drink trying to sell you something. Secondly,
True. That's
passion
true.
of the
I'm just saying that's true. It's very off-putting when somebody's trying to sell you something. Part of your charm is that you've never tried to sell us anything. You're just
right. I mean, so it becomes this relatable. I'm no different to the other guy. I may just be into Porsches and that guy's into sport import tuners or Mazdas or drift or whatever it may be, right? So when I did these outlaw gatherings all over the world, it was always all cars welcome. They were never Porsche centric. So the reach went beyond the Porsche world. But in the Porsche world, of course, things started becoming a little cooler and a little hipper. And, you sort of look at how Porsche changed their marketing and brought in a younger demographic with a broader appeal and a broader sort of reach of, now we're doing things with surfers and DJs and tennis players and singers and everything else. It wasn't actually like that before. So things evolved. Was I part of that scene? Am I part of that scene? Yeah, sure. Hence, hey, aren't you the Porsche guy? And having a beard helped, and being rock and roll helped, and the timing helped to, I was on the cover of Road and Track in 2013, which was the 50th anniversary of the 911. Now, Road and Track could have put anything on the cover, like the ladies' greatest GT3 RS, but I think people related to this. Everyone's got an inner outlaw, a little bit of rebelliousness to them, which maybe they let it out, maybe they don't. So I feel like what I've noticed is people tend to live vicariously through what it is I'm doing. Because maybe it's something they want to be doing, but haven't taken that leap of faith to achieve that goal, or haven't set a goal, or there are many reasons why it might not have happened. But, it's kind of strange. Like, recently I'm reading all these comments. Wow, it makes me so sad that you're selling all your cars. I go, I'm actually happy. So why should that make you sad if I'm happy, right? So, I don't really answer your question, but it was a pivotal moment in time that's still going. I'm just sort of not even diversifying. I'm just looking for new things that excite me, whether it's a different Porsche or a Pininfarina or a TWR. Because at the end of the day, I'm a car guy. I'm in my vintage Rolls Royce era because these things just represent great value, like 911s did 25 years ago. Great build quality. And, they sort of, you drive at a different pace and it's a conversation starter. Everyone wants to know what year it is. And, you know, the little tidbit, like 20 years ago, there was a thing called the Porsche wave where you'd wave to other Porsche owners and they related to it. That does not happen anymore.
Yeah.
Happen if someone's got a new Panamera, Taycan, Cayenne, Macan, and it really doesn't happen if someone's in a new 992.2 whatever. So it's a different sort of community. And I got into Porsche because it was a dream I had as a 10-year-old, and I fulfilled that dream. And that was a sense of personal achievement and success. A lot of people are the same way, but some people get into Porsches as an investment, right? And it's like a status symbol of like owning a certain watch or eating at a certain restaurant. Or I was never into it for that. So it's kind of like an evolving crowd, an evolving scene inside the Porsche world.
You brought something up that was interesting. You said that, some people, they feel sad. And I think with social media, it's created a lot of these parasocial relationships. And we talk about that a lot with race car drivers on this show specifically. So I want to tie that into something here. After the film pretty much changed your life, I would say. It sounds like, when things went viral, a lot of things changed publicly. What did that cost you privately? What version of your life ended when that went viral?
Well, I'm still the same person.
Mhm.
Difference is when I go to car shows, I go to look at cars, but a lot of times I end up looking at nothing because people come up and I get it. Hey, aren't you that Porsche guy? Can I get a
Mm.
photo? Let me show you my car. Can you do this? Can you do that? And it's about their validation of,
Mm.
hey, I showed Magnus my car and he really liked it. So it makes them feel good, right?
Yeah.
But when I go to events, it falls into what I call this 700 conversations where we all like Porsche, and I joke about my own, they all look the same. But then people sometimes get a little sensitive when I say, they all look, you go, do you want to see my blah, blah, blah? And let's say something I'm not interested in, like a convertible something. And then I'm in this awkward position where I'm not really interested because I don't like convertibles, but I can't say no to this person because he's going to be disappointed. And he's going to go, that guy's a real wanker. You didn't even want to see my car. So it's not even about me. It's about me
Yeah.
validating that they made the right choice. So of course I go, sure, let me walk, 200 yards away to go look at something I'm not interested in. Sure, I'll take a photo with it. So the answer to the question is, I'd had success before the Porsche thing.
Mm.
Like I'm going back through my archives to Serious Clothing, and this is pre-digital age of his and his. And I've got a whole scrapbook which I had to put together when I got a green card 25 years ago. I had to prove that I had some artistic merit and I wasn't taking jobs away from American citizen to apply for a green card as a designer. So here's the point to the story. I've got this press kit going back to the early 90s and letters from MTV and Vogue magazine and you name it, Sassy and Interview and 17 and Cosmopolitan. And there's pictures of bands wearing serious clothing on the cover of Rolling Stone. And we literally outfitted Alice Cooper to Madonna and a lot of people in between. So I had some notoriety and success before. The difference was before the internet didn't exist. And in a way, it was easier to get stuff done. Like stylists would come down and pull wardrobe for bands that were going on tour, or music videos, whether it's Britney Spears or Christina Aguilera or Madonna or whoever. And people said, okay, we're going to be there at 10 o'clock. And it wasn't like 5 different text messages to set up a time to come and then bail in the end. It just happened because there was no other way for it to happen.
Mm.
It was like the last generation of pre-digital creativity. So the answer to your question is I was already sort of known in the clothing world, but the clothing world's not the car world.
Mm.
So when Urban Outlaw came out in the past 15 years of overnight internet, whatever, notoriety or accessibility,
Yeah.
I just experienced that before in a different setting of pre-internet. Back to, hey, aren't you that crazy hat guy on the boardwalk in Venice?
Yeah.
People used to come up to me. So it wasn't like this just happened overnight and it was like, wow, I wasn't aware of how this was going to be. I'd always
Yeah.
sort of been a little outgoing, a little outrageous, a little flamboyant, a little different, right? Dare to be different. And it goes back to my name. I hated my name as a kid, Magnus, because I talk about this all the time. In a sea of like David, John, Paul, and Stevens, I got picked on. You know, it's a bit like the Johnny Cash song, A Boy Named Sue. So I was used to standing out, whether it was because I was a crazy hat guy or had a name that people made fun of, right? But now I realize, hey, this was all part of my journey of building character. I was into heavy metal at an early age. The outlaw thing wasn't actually anything new. In the 80s, heavy metal was kind of an outlaw thing.
Mm.
And, you know, the lone wolf, sort of Viking warrior, rock and roll, whatever it wasn't sort of the norm. It might have been a few steps down from the norm. So life goes on and, you know, people come up and
Yeah.
say hi, and that's kind of how it is.
Let me tell
So,
you something. Magnus Walker is a pretty epic literary name, so you're very lucky. I want to talk to you a little bit. You always talk about the 2014, your daily driver, the 991.1 Turbo.
yeah,
Last I heard, you had 200,000 miles on it, and you said it'll make it to 500,000 miles.
yeah.
I'm curious, what's the most miles you've ever actually put into a car where before it just like collapsed?
Well, I haven't got there yet. I mean, the 2014 991 Turbo S, I drove it today. I'm only the second owner. The prior owner actually put most of those miles on it. I bought it with 159,000 miles on it. It's currently at 206. Now, that's the car that has never been parked in the garage, you know, with my favorite cars. It's parked outside, never in a garage. It's usually covered in leaves and bird shit and stuff like that. And it's the only Porsche Arletta Valley Park guy park. And it's the only Porsche I've driven in one day, 1,050 miles through 5 states from LA to Denver. I wouldn't want to do it at my age in a GT3 or an air-cooled car. You know, Hannah and I took a road trip to Denver, over the Rockies at 14,000 feet. One day, Willow was with us. We had our luggage in it. So that car's a car that will just, it's like the Swiss Army knife of 911.
Yeah.
Stuck in bumper to bumper traffic, it doesn't matter. It's as fast as a GT3 on your favorite road. There are things that are irritating about it, like center lock wheels, you know, because I'm always getting nails and punctures and stuff like that. And I wasn't even looking for it. It just came to me. I was actually looking for a 997 turbo. And I just sort of fell into it for pennies on the dollar because it had high miles on it. Uh, I don't necessarily drive a lot of miles because I don't really have a job where I commute to work, and for a long time, I lived and worked in the same place. So I always said for me, my driving was 90% pleasure, in meaning there's driving and there's commuting, two different things, right? You're in bumper to bumper traffic going to work,
That's not
that's
driving.
commuting, doing like 15, 20 miles an hour,
Yeah.
as opposed to, you know, going up your favorite road, Angeles Crest Highway, for a blast. You might only do round trip 100 miles, but they're more spirited, memorable miles rather than like the guy that I bought the car from. I think his commute was 80 miles a day.
Ah,
That was how that car got miles on it, but they were freeway miles. And he was a mature owner, so he wasn't thrashing the shit out of it. It's not modified. Like a lot of people might have tried to make 800 or 1,000 horsepower out of that car. And that's when you have issues. That's car's plenty fast enough with the 560 horsepower it has in stock form. So I'm more interested in cars that have stories and high miles compared to people flexing their, you know, 1,000-mile paint to sample whatever.
yeah.
I'm more interested in the guy that's got 1,000,000 miles on something. Like one of the most exciting or most sort of memorable drives I ever had. I did this series for Haggerty called The Next Big Thing, and it was about the underdog cars, you know, like Saab turbos and Volvo station wagons. And I drove this 1967 Volvo P1800 that's in the Guinness Book of World Records as the highest mileage, non-commercial, individually owned. Uh, and at the time, it had over 3 million miles on it. It was owned by one guy, this school teacher called Irv Gordon. And he had that 80-mile commuter day. He lived somewhere in New York and just drove and drove and drove. And by the mid 70s, when the car was 10 years old, Volvo was documenting high mileage cars through dealer maintenance. And he had 1,000,000 miles on it. And he became a brand ambassador for Volvo because what is better, it was original engine, rebuilt twice, repainted a couple of times, but all their numbers matching car. So from a brand point of view, this P1700 is now owned by Volvo. And it's sort of this iconic car that has got over 3 million miles on it. So that's the story there that I'm still telling.
What so you mentioned the Angeles Crest Highway, and I know that's your favorite road to really exercise the Porsches on. Outside of that highway, is there another road that you really enjoy? Maybe it's your favorite in the entire world?
Sure. I mean, one of the greatest things about LA is accessibility to world-class driving roads where you can do the
Yeah.
trifecta. and I've done it. Ocean, desert, mountain in a day.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of roads around the ocean if you want an ocean view. I mean, PCH is an iconic road, but it's not a great driving road because it's slow and roadworks and whatever. Like the crest is 18 miles from where I'm sat right now. The ocean's 18 miles from where I'm sat right now. And let's say Lake Arrowhead, Big Bear, the mountains, they're probably 60 miles from where I'm sat. So there's so many iconic, not even iconic, there's just so many great driving roads. If you want to cruise PCH, that's great.
Yeah.
You want to rip up the crest, that's a challenging road that's got on camber, off camber, good road surface, bad road surface. You get in a flow, you can go as fast as you want to go. The roads up to Lake Arrowhead and Big Bear are spectacular. Or if you want to drive out to Joshua Tree or the high desert, or even just doing freeway loops at nighttime. I love nighttime freeway loops. You know, and you can connect them all. I'm within a mile of every major freeway, the 5, the 10, the 101, the 60. So if you want to drive down the 110 to Long Beach and go over the bridges at nighttime with the refineries glowing, it's like you're in Blade Runner. And so for me, it's cinematic. What I love about LA is like you see films like Heat, right? Or Gone in 60 Seconds,
Yeah.
or Terminator, and they're on the 6th Street Bridge, or they're in the LA River, or they're down in San Pedro. Driving in LA at nighttime feels like you're in your own movie, no matter what car you're in. You could be in a rental minivan and go, wow, this is the scene where Al Pacino's
It's
driving
true.
down the
It's
110,
true.
Jason De Niro. Or this is the scene in, Terminator where they're going into the LA River, or Gone in 60 Seconds, or whatever it is, Rockford Files. So LA, with it being a movie town, and everyone's sort of into film, right? That's inspirations all around. So it's kind of like, currently we don't have speed cameras. That's changing, but currently we don't have them. So, whenever I go back to England, England's just so frustrating because there's roadworks everywhere and these mandatory 30-mile-an-hour averages, and everyone's like overly aggressive and don't want to let you in. And I'm not saying LA drivers are great, but yeah, you go to Miami and see people just cross 4 lanes to get off.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's Florida, yeah.
I grew up in
So,
Miami. It's crazy.
so you're in Miami?
No, I'm in Toronto, actually. And just,
Oh,
Tamir is a local legend, of course, here. We
oh,
love him. But I grew up in Miami. I have a question. If I called you up, and now I have your number, so I may, Mark.
oh,
He's like,
well,
oh no, changing it tomorrow.
yeah.
If I called you up and I said, hey, I have Laguna Seca for us for a day, you can pick any car. It cannot be a Porsche. What car are we taking to Laguna Seca?
TWR Supercat that I'm still involved with. I don't know if you saw that thing go up the hill at Goodwood, but
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
that
Yeah.
car made its debut, finished in 11th position with a sub 56-second run, 2/10 outside of the top 10, which surprised a lot of people. So ironically, that's a project that I'm a Jag guy. I've owned E-Types, I've owned XJSs. I actually wanted to do. Great story. In 2018, I did a press drive with Jag. I became sort of acquaintance buddies with Ian Callum, the Jag designer, and he'd just done his XJ6 coupe, and they'd done a similar hot rod Jag for Nico McBain, the drummer of Iron Maiden. And the XJS is the unloved Jag. It's a follow-up to the E-Type. It's
Yeah.
plagued with problems, but they were great touring cars. And I said, hey, I want to do like a DTM Outlaw sort of hot rod XJS. And I even spoke to Jag Classic about it, and they loved the idea. And then Ian Callum left Jag and just kind of went nowhere. And then fast forward to 2022, during COVID, I get an email from a former Porsche marketing guy, PR guy called Lee Newton, who said, hey, he's freelancing on this Rebirth of TWR, Tom Wilkinson Shaw Racing. These guys won up. Tom Wilkinson Shaw was British touring car champion, raced at Bathurst, and then they were the motorsports engineering division of Jag that won Le Mans in 1988. They developed the XJ220, the XJ15, and rebirthing the brand through the son Fergus. So when my friend Lee said, hey, are you interested in this project? I go, you must be a mind reader. He goes, why? I go, I wanted to do a hot rod Jag. It's a British thing, right? I wanted to do one for a long time. So that's something that I'm very proud of, being part of that team. We debuted that car at my warehouse in 2024, and we took it to Vegas for F1 and LA Auto Show. And, it was just a very creative, exciting thing for me that wasn't a Porsche. So,
Oh, yeah.
TWR Supercat.
Well, supercharged G12 and the Supercat, straight flat 6s, flat 4s, Porsche. Which do you prefer?
It's horses for courses. It's all about what you want to experience in the journey and the drive. And I'm about variety. It's like, out there's my 55-year-old Rolls-Royce 72 Shadow, right?
Okay.
That thing doesn't go fast, but you feel good driving it. We've got a 77 C3 Corvette. Doesn't do anything great, but it looks great. It's not fast, doesn't stop, doesn't sound good, but you feel good when you're in it. So it doesn't matter whether it's a 4-cylinder or a V12.
Mm.
It's more about, do you feel good in it? And you
Yeah.
don't have to be driving fast to feel good in it. I've driven a lot of I've been fortunate enough to have some seat time in some hypercars and supercars. Most of them I wouldn't want to own because they're not practical, or, you just ultimately the road determines the speed.
Yeah.
I drove the Queen of Batista before I got involved in that project up the crest, and that thing has 2,000 horsepower, which sounds like unbelievably scary and all of that stuff. And my turbo's got 560 horsepower. So the Batista had 4 times the horsepower, but it wasn't going 4 times quicker. Maybe it was going 10, maybe 15% quicker, because the road determines the speed. So it doesn't matter whether you're in a 4-cylinder car or a V12. It's like V12 might go quicker, but yet you might not be having more fun.
Yeah.
True. Or it just sounds better or whatever the decision is. Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you something. If there's anything in chatting with you that this has got me thinking, I was just telling Lali that I had sold my 944 turbo maybe 3-4 years after I bought it. Just didn't have room, but now I want to buy one. I want to buy it again, just because you've got me thinking, like, why not? I should, just because I want to.
I just sold not all of my transaxle water-cooled cars, a few of them: 924, 928, 944, 968.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm going to say. 928 is the best of the bunch because the V8's got just enough bottom end torque where you don't have to rev the nuts up. 924 NA or turbo, or the 944, they're kind of similar. You really have to drive them in a very spirited manner to be on boost, and they're a little frantic and rattly, and they're not as quick as you feel, but they're a great experience.
Yeah.
But here's my but: the 968
Yeah.
3-liter is the sweet spot of both of them because it's got
Okay.
enough bottom end torque, and the build quality is better. It's more 993,
Sure.
where you don't have to thrash the nuts off them like you do with a 944, because off boost 944s, they're a little lazy, let's put it that way. When they're on boost, different story.
Okay.
Part spin, VW. But if you want a 944 turbo, I like them too.
I just want to. I need to get. I need to have it back, right? Just to even have it. But I'm going to take you up on that. Final, I guess, thought or question. It's not even a question. It's more of a final thought from you. If you had to leave the audience with one nugget of wisdom that you've learned over the last 40 years or so, what would you say?
Do what you love. Don't overthink it. Don't care what other people say.
Magnus Walker, ladies and gentlemen. Go.
Urban Outlaw.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being
Thank
here
you.
with us today.
Really
My
appreciate it,
pleasure.
Magnus.
Accommodating my last-minute schedule, and thanks for the opportunity, and great spending time with you two.
Likewise. Are you with Hannah right now by any chance or no?
No, Hannah's, I was going to say Hannah's got a real job, which she does, but she's not working today because it's Good Friday. But no,
Sure.
I'm not with Hannah today. She'll be
Okay.
here in a little bit, though.
I just texted her. That's why I sent her a picture of us talking. Hannah's had me in Bloomberg numerous times. We've talked about Formula One in Vegas and whatnot. So anyway,
got it.
just tell her I said hello. Vincenzo from Business of Speed says hello. She'll know.
I quickly want to say something, Magnus, that really resonated with me from your story. The letting go, the shedding. Last year, I had to let go of something like very significant to me that I had been fighting for a long time to hold on to. It was my house, because I got a divorce and I had to get rid of the house, and I really fought hard for the house. Once I abandoned that, like the dream of holding on to that house, and I let go and I moved to my tiny little flat from 2,000 square feet. Oh man, did I feel lighter? Did I feel better? Did light start coming into my life? Like everything improved. So I'm really excited to see what this new lightness and litheness brings to your life and what you're going to create. Really excited to watch what's next with you. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. It's not the first time I've done this. Closing down in 2011 was significant because I ran that business from the boardwalk up to it being, like a 7-figure business. And that was an emotional band-aid because it was at the time, it was all I thought I knew, because that's what I'd done for so long, right? And for the past 3-4 years of that life of that business, it wasn't fun. But it took a long time to let it go. But once that was let go, what came next is what we talked about. And so I just know something good is going to come creatively and mentally. And I appreciate you sharing those words of wisdom.
It really resonates, and I'm sure it'll resonate with people, and I really hope that our paths cross. Vincenzo and I are often out and about and doing racing things, so I hope our paths cross and we can give you a hug and meet in
Well, I
person.
appreciate that. If you guys were ever in LA, stop on by.